You just made the list!
Mark your calendars for Insights EDU 2025, February 12th through 14th. Insights EDU 2025 is the can't-miss higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're taking over New Orleans with speakers from Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the country. Discover how AI is transforming marketing and enrollment management, how to assess online program opportunities, and meet the demands of today's modern learner. Don't wait. Spots are going quickly. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go!
Lucian Live is taking place April 6th through 9th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida.
You just made the list!
Get ready for an unforgettable experience at Lucian Live 2025. Join visionary leaders from institutions worldwide as we dive into groundbreaking ideas, cutting-edge solutions, and transformative best practices that will ignite your passion for innovation. This is your chance to connect, collaborate, and propel your institution into the future. Do not miss out.
Let's go!
Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe today. Do you want to get invites to special events? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes episodes, and original content? Do you want to accelerate your professional development?
Welcome to the EdUp Experience College Closure mini-series Through the Eyes of. Today, we look at college closure through the eyes of Emma Lynne DeRoss, a student at the University of the Arts when it announced its closing earlier this year. I'm your host, Dr. Jay Keene. According to records by the Higher Education Dive Team, there have been 118 closures since 2016. I worked for one of those 118 colleges. Experts are predicting hundreds of more college closures or mergers over the next 5 to 10 years. And there are many reasons why a college may close: lack of funds, declining enrollment, reduction in state funding, low perception of the value of higher education, damage to the academic reputation, accreditation issues, or just gross and significant mismanagement. What often gets lost in this drastic outcome is the human trauma that becomes a byproduct. This podcast will examine the human side through the eyes of the president, faculty, staff, CFO, and the student. And today, we talked to a student. As stated, I am talking with Emma Lynne DeRoss. Emma Lynne, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So let's just dive in, go right into it. Tell me, first, why did you choose the University of the Arts to attend?
I chose to go to the University of the Arts for multiple reasons. The biggest one was honestly financial aspect of it. They were one of the only colleges that I was getting a scholarship that would make it able for me to attend. I had a full tuition scholarship there. So that was a huge aspect of it. But also, when I toured the University of the Arts versus other schools, I noticed that on the tour, the environment was so just amazing. Everyone was so close-knit. Any person that the tour guide saw, they knew. They would say hi, they would hug. I got a handwritten note in the mail from my tour guide saying how nice it was to show me around campus and how nice it was to meet me. So it really was such a close community. Everyone was so kind there. And it also, not only that, but the staff there, they sat me down. They had a personal meeting with me. They made their students feel like they mattered as an individual, whereas a lot of places that I was applying to, I felt more like a number. And so that coupled with the financial aspect and also just how great specifically the screenwriting program was the big factor for why I went there.
Right. So obviously people go to the University of the Arts, there's certain talents. You were into screenwriting.
Yes, I was a screenwriting major there.
Great. And how far along were you? Like, when did you start?
I started fall of 2023,
Okay,
and
only a year ago.
yes, so that was my freshman year, and we went home, I think mid-May, and a few weeks later, after we had just gotten home for summer break, that's when we got the email. So I had only been attending there for a year.
And you completed 2 full semesters,
Yes.
and you registered for the fall, correct?
Yes, I was registered for the fall. In fact, that morning I had already gotten a notice to pay for the next semester. A lot of people already did. I was waiting to pay for my housing, so I hadn't thankfully paid, but that morning we had already gotten the notices to pay for the next semester.
And so everything was normal, right? You were
Yes.
expecting to get a bill for, notification to pay. You had registered, no
Mhm.
indication that anything was going to change. And in the fall, you would be just continuing your education at the University of the Arts.
Yes, that was
That was the plan.
everything seemed normal. That was the plan, yeah.
Did you know a lot of people before you started the program?
Within the program?
Yeah, people that went to the college with you, or as you got there, you knew.
So I knew a lot of people prior because I was in the University of the Arts did this program for certain students, mostly first generation college students, to get acclimated to college, see what it was about, since there was no one in their families that had gone prior. So I
Hmm.
went early to college, my freshman year for, I think it was 2 weeks, and we did a great program. They took us to a lot of places. They got us acclimated to college. So I met a lot of people through that. And then I started classes and I had classes with those people.
That is very interesting because that is something unique. Meaning, a lot of colleges don't do that. They may have an orientation, a week or two before college starts for all freshmen or all
Hmm.
new students, right? But there's been a lot of research recently and a big push to accommodate and make first generation students feel more comfortable because, like you just said, they don't really have the family or the generations behind them to tell them what to expect or to be there. So University of Arts was doing something that was not typical to have this
Yes.
kind of program. Uh, they were You made friends once you were there as well.
Yes, I made friends once I was there. It was such a great place. Everyone was so kind, very welcoming. If there was a transfer student, if someone was new, everyone would make sure that they had friends and were invited to things, had plans. It was a very warm environment,
Right.
is the best way to describe it. Yeah.
And that's one of the pieces that I was fascinated by, in that you're everything just like seems so normal in this situation.
Mhm.
We'll get to the part about what happened when, for lack of better terms, it came crashing down and burning the whole college, right? But up until that point, everything was so normal. But not only so normal, but it was such a warm social environment. A lot of colleges that I've heard that had some struggles with enrollment and finances, right? The students were like, their their reputation was going in a sense, meaning
Mhm.
like the students weren't happy anymore. They were having a harder time getting enrollment. But that wasn't really the case with you and with the University of the Arts. It was more, everything was normal. People were making friends. Everything was great. Were there any indications that something was going to happen before you got that email?
Now, I mean, hindsight is 2020.
Of
I
course, of
can
course.
definitely see things now. For sure, the main thing was the fact that our adjunct professors and professors in general weren't getting paid.
Right.
living wages, especially for living in a city um, like Philadelphia. So they did end up getting better contracts to get paid uh, closer to fair wage for the work that they were doing.
Mhm.
But our professors were above and beyond. They were absolutely amazing.
Right.
That was
And,
definitely one of the, I'm sorry,
no, go ahead. Finish.
that was definitely one of the main hints at it looking back that a lot of the faculty, a lot of the staff weren't getting paid enough.
They weren't getting paid enough, or they weren't getting paid. I've heard institutions on both ends, right?
Mhm.
So, institute, and you may not even know the behind the scenes, which is why I'm trying to gather the feelings of the student. But you're saying that this could have been a red flag. Again,
Definitely.
hindsight, right? But I've seen some universities where they see they're struggling, they know they're on the path to probably closing, but they don't put money aside to make sure faculty get paid. And I've seen institutions, ones that I'm very familiar with, that just stop paying the faculty altogether, and that is the warning signs. Not many students don't know that kind of behind the scenes, right? So they get that letter and they're shocked, as were you, as was your case. Again, you're saying this in hindsight. Oh, I realize now that the parent professors didn't get
Mhm.
paid, or didn't get paid what they should have been getting paid, right? Maybe that contributed to all of this. So now let's talk about emotions.
Mhm.
Everything is good. You're on your summer break. You registered for the fall. You have no reason to think anything bad is going to happen. And you get this email, and again, some universities have it more of a plan. We're struggling, we can't keep this up, we're not going to take new students, but we'll work with the students we have, and then we'll close. University of the Arts, as well as others that I'm familiar with, unfortunately, that didn't do that. They were sent out that letter, and they said, this is it, we're not closing a month from now, a semester from now, we are closing immediately. What went through your mind?
Yeah, so I was one of the only people that actually found out from the email and not from the Philly Inquirer hours
Oh, okay.
prior.
Okay.
So I actually was at dinner with my family when the email went out. I wasn't checking my phone and I got a call from a friend and he said, "Have you checked your school email?" I said, "No, I'm out to dinner." And he said, "Actually, you should wait on checking your email. Wait until after dinner." And so I hung up and I told my parents what had happened, and they're like, "So you're gonna check your email right now, right?" And I said, "Yes." So I checked my email there at the restaurant, and my parents described it as literally my face went blank. I looked horrified, and I thought I was dreaming. It's one of those situations where I just didn't think it was real.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed it to my mom because I was like, am I reading this correctly? I'm reading this wrong? And her face falls, and it was from there a mess. And we ended up leaving the restaurant early, obviously. And from there, it was definitely a panic because I realized I'm either going to have to take a gap year
Yeah.
or maybe go in the spring semester, but a lot of screenwriting programs don't offer that. All of the admissions applications are closed by this point because it was May 31st,
Right.
and we had 7 days until the school officially closed. So 7 days notice,
Shh. Yeah.
which
Let me just say, like, one of the things I've been saying all along and doing my research is failure to plan is
Mhm.
a plan to fail, right? And so this timing just sounds like not only, okay, my college is closed. If you had the ability to then just fill out an application, go somewhere with, with enough time, that'd be great. But your time was squeezed, and like you said, if you didn't hit the fall semester, you may have not been able to do the spring semester either. So
Mhm.
what was going on then? What was happening with the registration, with what came next? Did when were you able to calm down? Did you calm down? Maybe I should say first.
Well, I calmed down. I ended up contacting family and friends, letting them know if I had friends that were in emergency housing at
Hmm.
UArts that I was checking on. Um, that whole situation was awful.
Right.
And so I checked in on all my friends and tried to email my professors, checking in on them. And then at that point, it was Friday. So none of us could do anything about applying for the weekend until Monday, which felt like an eternity when you
Right.
don't know the future of your education or even if any of your credits are going to transfer, anything. We didn't know anything.
Right. And the
So
college wasn't helping you.
they didn't have teach out plans yet.
Yeah.
There were schools saying we'll take UArts students, but that whole process, there were so many of us needing to find a place to go. Those applications were overflooded.
Mm.
So it was very difficult, especially when there was only a few colleges at that point, at that early on,
Right.
saying, "Hey, we'll take UArts students." So that Monday, I spent the weekend researching all of the deans and the chairs of the film programs or the screenwriting programs at schools around the country. And then I found their emails and I found the email of the application um, team. And I emailed the deans of every single program. I sent them basically some of my films, my resume, things that I did at UArts in that 1 year. I sent them I told them the situation. A lot of them had already known. It was national headlines at this point by
Yes.
Monday.
Yes.
So I did that. I emailed, I don't even know how many people. And some I got back, we'd love to extend our application for UArts students. Please inform any of your friends that are looking at a similar program to you. We're happy to take applications. We're happy to take your application. Let's make this work. Or some schools said, I'm sorry, we're full for the next semester, for the next year, and you can apply to be class of 2028 or 2029,
That's
basically.
got to be frustrating.
That was frustrating, but I understood because
Hmm.
some schools simply just can't take any more students. But it was more frustrating that the people that were in charge of this happening at UArts definitely could have seen this coming to a certain extent, and we should have been informed uh, months prior. It's supposed to be
Right.
60 days before, not 7.
Right.
So we would have been able to apply at the right time if we were informed at that point.
Did you feel you had any support from anybody in the university?
Attention, higher ed leaders. Are you ready to transform your marketing and enrollment strategy? Don't miss Insights EDU, February 12th through 14th in New Orleans, the premier conference for higher education marketing and enrollment management. Spots are filling fast. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go.
Are you going to miss Ellucian Live this year?
I don't think so.
Exactly. So you might as well register right now at elive.ellucian.com. Ellucian Live 2025, April 6th through 9th in Orlando, Florida. Do not miss it.
Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.
Definitely professors. I would email them, checking in on them. They would say, "Hey, if you need anything, if you need me to." Actually, I needed a teacher recommendation in 24 hours at one point. So I emailed about 5 of my professors including the head of the program. And I said, hey, I need a teacher recommendation in quite literally 24 hours. I know you are probably spending a lot of time trying to search for a job right now. I understand if you can't do this, but if one of you are able to, please let me know. Not just one, not just two, but 3 out of 5 of those professors got me a recommendation, not even within the 24 hours, like within a few hours.
That's amazing. That's
That,
amazing. And,
yeah.
well, I was going to say that goes back to this piece, and this is not uncommon. I hear this from a lot of people, and I interviewed a professor for this series. The professors and the staff, the faculty, the advisors, people are there. You think, oh, they may know something behind the scenes. They may say, we're not getting paid, or we had to take cuts. Why are we still here? And a lot of them are there because they love the institution, they love what it stood for, and they love the students. They want to work. They hope that it gets worked out, and that they will eventually get the pay for the work that they did. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. I've known situations where faculty and staff are still owed 7, 8, 10 months worth of work, right? But when this then crumbles, that same passion to be there for the students doesn't go away, right? So
Yeah.
they now know, now it's public, now it's out in the media, everyone knows the University of the Arts is closing. They would have no reason to put forth any work for them. They would no one would blame them to say, I'm not doing anything else, I'm not doing anything for the students, but they do have this care and this passion. What kept them there in the first place is now going to stay there for the students and be there for support, right? Despite what happened to them by administration, the board, and so forth. It sounds
Definitely.
like you also had a good support system amongst friends. How did you guys stay resilient? How did you guys work together to get through this as a group?
Well, I had, after everyone found out, a group chat of basically everyone in the film program was made. That includes screenwriting and film majors.
Right.
And we all just talked, a lot of us FaceTimes, just trying to figure out what happened, checking in on each other. We all wanted to see where each other were applying because we were all really close. We were going to miss each other, and we were hoping that some of us would go to the same film program. Where I'm at now, there's only one other UArts cinema student. So a lot of people ended up staying in Philly at either Drexel or Temple, especially for film and screenwriting. So we all stayed updated on that. We would tell each other, hey, this program told me that they're open to accepting UArt students. Maybe check them out. They have a great screenwriting program or a great film program. So we would keep each other updated on that and try to inform each other of any schools prior to us finally getting the teach out plans. Try and inform each other about schools that were taking UArt students.
That's good. I want to go back to possible red flags, warning signs, and you talked about in retrospect, hindsight, you realized that the faculty or staff wasn't necessarily getting paid, or certainly wasn't getting paid their fair amounts. What about resources? Did you see, again, maybe in retrospect, you think back, resources dwindling, things that they had that they were no longer, or programs they had that they were no longer offering for students? Was that something that you now can think back and say, oh, I realized that we didn't have as much resources as we had at the beginning? Something was not there anymore. Something was not right.
So yes and no, because I actually came in during a year where there was a lot of development at UArts. They had just created Saxby's. They redid the entire student center, from
Right.
what I know. They had made a lot of updates. They were making partnerships with other, I think I'm forgetting the name of the organization, but it's some like the Philly Mural organization. They had, I believed, just announced that partnership at the commencement ceremony for graduation. So there was a lot of updates and a lot of new things happening. But, there was also our elevators didn't work half the time
Right.
and they weren't really getting fixed. Or, one night at I think it was like 1:30 in the morning on
Hmm.
on a school night, I think one of the boilers had basically exploded, and so
Oh
we all
gosh.
had to evacuate in our residence hall. So there was things like that. But the buildings were old, so a lot of us didn't think anything of it as
Right.
far as, oh, they don't have the funds to fix these things. We just thought these things were harder to fix because these are very old buildings. That was kind of, as far as resources, really just the maintaining of the buildings was a
Hmm.
big part of it. And after we found out that there was a really big issue with the Terra elevators, and that was a big part of why they had to shut down because of
Right.
all the damage to those. So that does make sense now. But while we were there, I don't think any of us thought of it as they don't
Right.
have enough money.
Right. Right. What about any kind of academic resources, not just the classrooms, but maybe advising, tutoring, library resources, anything like that, that they kind of maybe let it go a little bit or not?
While I was there, no, everything stayed the same.
Right. Well, and
I
that's
don't
good.
know. Yeah, I don't know about anything prior to I was there. If things
Hmm.
had gone down since then, I haven't heard anything, but everything seems to stay the same throughout the entire time I was there.
Right. So now you say you do have a teach out plan. Did they help you at all with the transition? Where was your teach out plan? You had to find it yourself. Where are you now and how did you get there?
So, teach out plans started happening like slowly but surely. There were a few, I think it was Temple, Drexel, Montclair, Point Park was definitely on there pretty early on. That's where I'm going
Hmm.
right now. So those were the early on schools. I'm probably forgetting some, but those were kind of unofficial teach outs. There
Right.
were articles released saying, hey, we'll take these students, and here's the list of schools that are willing to take UART students. And I would say the official teach outs came a few weeks later from a few schools. And there were actually teach outs getting approved after it was like a week out from us all moving into school.
Mhm.
And they were like, hey, here's a big list of teach out schools that were just approved,
Right.
which
No,
doesn't help us any
r-
since
right. But when you say teach out, you mean that you were able to go to this new institution, in your case, Point
Point
um,
Park
Point
University.
Point Park. Yes, sorry.
Mhm.
Right. And they would follow the same degree plan, or you had to match up to the courses that they offered, right? But you are
Yeah,
now a Point Park. Sorry, I keep on messing it up. Point
that's
Park
okay.
University student, right? But it was not
Mhm.
a merger. In some cases, students,
No.
universities close, they merge, and everything gets taken over. You are now uh, a Point Park University student,
hmm
right?
Basically, with the teach outs, certain schools would have certain agreements of
Right.
what, like which programs of students they would accept, if they would match scholarships or not,
That was going to
and
be my
things
next
like that.
question.
hmm
Right. So in this plan, were they able to honor your scholarship?
So that was the thing. Point Park University was one of the only schools that actually fully matched my scholarship.
Very nice.
And so I went there for multiple reasons, but
Right.
that was also, they took most of my credits, whereas a lot of schools I didn't think I was going to get
Right.
as many credits. And I know a lot of people that had to completely start over. They've lost entire years that they
Right.
did at UArts. So I was very lucky that most of my credits transferred, and
Mm-hmm.
also they honored my scholarship.
All right. That is very good to hear,
Mhm.
because again, in difference to a merger or partnership versus what you went through, which was a complete closure and then having to reapply and being taken at another school. In a partnership, the merger, the new university has to honor everything that comes with it. So they would have had to honor your scholarship. And I know from the media, from the papers, that Temple was in discussions for some sort of merger, but it broke down in the last minute, and nothing ever happened. And that's when Philadelphia of the Arts, University of the Arts, just decided to make that decision and realized it too late. Meaning, again, they could have realized it a half a semester ago, a year ago, and said, "Okay, this is going to be our plan. This is how we're going to save money. This is how we're going to honor the students." Yet, in the end, because it was so late, you got to notice that within a week it was being closed.
Yeah.
And that was the trouble. And then that left, in your case, you got lucky in the sense that you were able to find a place that not only accepted your credits all or most, but also honored your scholarship. And now you can continue. So how far are you?
I'm almost done with my first semester at Point Park.
First semester. Oh, so yeah. So your third semester overall.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about, how this might have affected your personal life. We talked about the practicalities. You had to then be on your own to find your own place, own new school. You had to do all that. You had to make sure you got your credits transferred. Emotionally, where you were in life. And, when we talk about a place like the University of Arts, we talk about people who have this talent, who have these goals to be somewhere in your sense of screenwriter. Did this throw you off? Where are you in your life? And separate from all that, if you'd like, promote whatever you want to promote.
Yeah, so emotionally, it's been really challenging because for I think all of us that got to experience what the University of the Arts was like, because it was a very unique place. I think it was one of the only places in the country that was solely the arts. We didn't
Right.
have any other majors outside of the arts. We didn't really have core curriculum. You weren't going to be required to take a math class, or I think the only thing we had was basically college essay writing, and you only had to take that for 2 semesters. So it was very unique in that way. And it had such a great sense of community, and the school itself had a spirit. And
Right.
I honestly am very sad that there's not going to be a chance for other people to experience that and to experience what kind of place it was. I think it was honestly a very healing place in the arts. I mean, in any career, it can be very competitive. And in the arts, I've experienced schools that are strictly the arts trying to pit students against each other, not on the higher education level. I haven't experienced that, but um, schools outside of, public schools or anything like that, trying to pit artists against each other. And UArts healed that for a lot of people, healed that. I don't know how to describe it, but a lot of us had grown up in very competitive arts, and there was no sense of competition there. There was no sense of you have to be better or compete with anyone else. It was you're your own individual. You're talented in your own way. You can do things that that other person can't, and they can do things that you can't. And each of you are special. And that school really promoted that way of thinking. And so it was healing for a lot of us,
Right. It
especially.
sounded like it was a safe place.
It was. It really was.
And I guess in a sense that kind of makes it a little bit emotionally harder, challenging internally, because that safe place was ripped away, right? It was no longer safe. People go to a more traditional college, they take the classes, they leave. There's no emotional connection. So if something like that gets taken away from them, they're like, okay, I'll just move on, whatever, because they weren't at a safe place. They weren't looking for something, community oriented. Right. And so the impact isn't as great. But when you have that safe place, you have that community, you have that the ability to promote yourself, and that gets taken away. I see the frustration and emotion and anxiety that can cause.
Mm-hmm.
You have an IBD page. Do you want to share anything on it?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of short films that I've made or starred in or both. I I'm not only a screenwriter, but I act, I direct, I do camera. Um, I was in a 4-year high school film program, so a lot of these films are from that.
Hmm.
So if anyone wants to check those out, those are on my IMDb page.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect. And I imagine there's going to be a lot more coming from you. I sense it.
definitely. Thank you.
So as we wind this up, let me ask you the last question, which I've asked everyone, regardless of the role that they're in. I've been doing this podcast. I talk to presidents, faculty, staff, and my last question is always this. And now I ask you the same question: what lessons can you share with others who may be going through this? Others who might be a student in a school,
Mhm.
and they get this letter. They say no, in a week, maybe in some cases a month, whatever it is. Maybe it's not even that long. Um, what lessons can you share with them?
I can say I know that it is so incredibly overwhelming and stressful not knowing what the future holds in when it comes to your higher education or if you're a professor, where your next job is going to be. But I found everyone I know ended up in a place where they're just as happy, maybe even more happy, and they're in a great place that if it's going to take some time to find that place, but once you do, you can trust that you'll end up where you're meant to be next. And as long as you got to take all the right steps. You got to reach out to schools or people that you know can help you in those situations and reach out to as many people. And if you do that, if you just try your best at finding somewhere else to go, you will find somewhere else that is just as good for you.
Thank you. That's an important message. Like, if this happens to you, this is not the end.
Hmm.
You can move on and you can find your space. That's a very important message. Thank you so much. And this is the end of this podcast. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to speak and your vulnerability to share your emotions. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of
Emma
course.
Lynne DeRoss from the former University of the Arts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now listen up.
Insights EDU 2025 is almost here. Join us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management event of the year.
I like that.
Imagine 3 action-packed days filled with game-changing insights, real-world case studies, and a hands-on workshop designed to transform your marketing strategy and boost your program enrollment. Learn from speakers at Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the nation. Network with industry leaders, exchange ideas, and discover the tools to drive real results. This is your opportunity to stay ahead of the competition and meet the demands of today's modern learners. Don't wait, spots are filling fast. Mark your calendar, rally your team, and head to insightsedu.com to register now. The era of the modern learner is here, and you need to be part of it. We'll see you in New Orleans at Ellucian Live 2025. We're going to explore the magic of innovation. We want to imagine, believe, and achieve. It's happening April 6th through 9th, 2025 in Orlando, Florida, and we're going to explore technology, modernization, and
artificial intelligence.
Explore the latest technology solutions, discover industry insights, and make valuable connections as a global community. It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2025 at elive.ellucian.com.
Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.